Stop. Before you touch that screen again, you need to hear the next 45 seconds, because after July 23rd, this message will be useless to you. Chosen one, 3 days have been marked over your life. July 21st, July 22nd, July 23rd. Not by a preacher, not by a coincidence. Marked. The way a surgeon marks skin before an operation. Precise, deliberate, dated. And here is the part that should stop your breath. This is not the first window God has opened over you. It is at least the fifth. The promotion that went to someone half as prepared as you. The relationship that collapsed 1 week before it was supposed to begin. The idea you carried for years, then watched a stranger build. You called it bad luck. You called it closed doors. Some nights, lying awake at 3 in the morning, you called it proof that you were passed over. You were never passed over. The doors were open. You could not see them. There is a reason for that. A real and documented reason inside the way your mind was divided years ago, and no one ever told you. Because the people who profit from your circling need you to keep circling. In the next 3 days, that reason can be dealt with. That is why these dates matter. That is why skipping this window is the one mistake you cannot afford to repeat. In the next few minutes, I will show you the 3 signs that a marked window is already opening around you. You will recognize at least 2 of them from this past week alone. Then I will walk you through what to do on each of the 3 days, the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd. 1 assignment per day. Nothing vague, nothing you have heard before. But I have to warn you now, the way I was once warned. Between this moment and the morning of July 21st, something will try to pull you out of this message. A notification, an argument, a sudden heaviness in your eyes. When it comes, and it will come, remember this sentence. The pull is not random. It is the oldest trick in the book, and today you finally get to see it fail. If you are still here, seal it. Type the words, "I am not skipping this window," in the comments below. Not for me. For the version of you who walked past 4 open doors and never knew it. Because this time, chosen one, you will not walk past an open door. Now let me slow down, because what I just said deserves to be unpacked slowly, the way you unwrap something fragile. I said 3 days have been marked. I did not say 3 days of magic. I did not say that on July 22nd, money falls from the ceiling. Anyone who promises you outcomes on a schedule is selling you something cheap, and you have been hurt by those promises before. I know that. Heaven knows that. A marked window is something different and older and far more serious. In the old languages, there were 2 separate words for time. One word meant the time of clocks and calendars, the time that grinds forward whether you are ready or not. The other word meant ripeness, the moment when the fruit is heavy, when the tide is full, when the door that was always going to open finally moves on its hinges. The first kind of time belongs to everyone. The second kind is assigned, and the assigned kind has a strange property. It does not announce itself with trumpets. It announces itself through disturbance, through a low static in your body and your circumstances that most people medicate, ignore, or explain away. That static has been building around you for days now. You have felt it. It is part of why you stopped on this message when you have scrolled past 1,000 others. So let me give you the 3 signs that a marked window is opening, and as I name them, be honest with yourself about how many you already carry. The first sign is the broken sleep. Somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning, your eyes open. No nightmare, no noise, no reason. Just a sudden, complete wakefulness, as if someone quietly said your name from the doorway. You lie there with your heart beating a little too precisely, feeling like you are supposed to be doing something without any idea what that something is. Doctors will tell you about cortisol rhythms, and they are not wrong about the chemistry. But chemistry is the messenger, not the message. In nearly every account of calling that survives in the old texts, the summons comes at night. Samuel was a boy asleep in the temple when he heard his name and ran to the wrong voice 3 times before an old man told him who was actually calling. The call came in the dark hours, because the dark hours are the only time the noise of the day cannot drown a whisper. If you have been waking in that window this month, more than once, without explanation, mark it. That is sign 1, and it is not insomnia. It is a knock. The second sign is the acceleration of endings. In the weeks before a marked window, things that were quietly dying for years suddenly finish dying all at once. A friendship goes cold in a single conversation. A job that was tolerable becomes unbearable in the space of a Tuesday. A habit you have carried for a decade suddenly disgusts you. It feels like your life is shedding, and it frightens you, because loss usually means something is wrong. But watch a snake in the weeks before it grows. Watch a tree in late autumn. The shedding is not the tragedy. The shedding is the schedule. Life strips what cannot pass through the opening, because the opening has a width, and some of what you have been carrying is wider than the door. If the last month has felt like an unexplained season of subtraction, do not mourn too quickly. Count it. That is sign 2. The third sign is the return of the buried thing. Somewhere in the last stretch of days, an old dream has resurfaced in you. The business you talked yourself out of. The book. The move. The reconciliation. The calling you folded up and put away. The year life got practical. It has come back, and not as nostalgia. It came back with weight, almost with irritation, like something that has been waiting in a lobby for years and is now standing up and tapping the glass. Here is what almost no one understands about that resurfacing. Buried dreams do not rise on their own. They are not corks. Something pulls them up, and the pull is always tied to timing. When the buried thing stands up inside you, it is because somewhere ahead of you, a space has been prepared where it can finally live. The dream is not tormenting you. The dream is responding to a door you cannot see yet. 3 signs. The broken sleep. The season of endings. The risen dream. I want you to do something right now, and this is between you and heaven, not between you and me. Count how many of the 3 are active in your life this month. If the number is 2 or 3, then what I said at the beginning was not poetry. A window is opening around you, and it has a date on it. Now breathe, because I can feel the question forming in you, and it is the right question. It is the question this entire message exists to answer. If windows like this have opened before, and if the signs were there before, then why did nothing change? Why did the promotion slide past? Why did the person leave? Why did the stranger build your idea? If God was opening doors, why were you still standing in the hallway when they closed? I want you to sit with the discomfort of that question instead of flinching away from it, because you have flinched away from it for years, and the flinch always lands in the same place. It lands on you. You conclude that you prayed wrong, believed too little, sinned too much, started too late, wanted it too weakly. You have built an entire private courtroom in your chest, and in that courtroom you are always the defendant, and the verdict is always the same. Chosen one, I am going to say something now that I need you to hear in your body, not just your ears. The verdict was wrong. The case itself was wrong. You did not miss those doors because your faith was thin. You missed them because of a mechanism, a specific, nameable, fixable mechanism that sits between your mind and the world and decides, without asking you, what you are allowed to notice. There is a name for it. I will give you the name in a few minutes, and when I do, a great many things about your history are going to make sense in a way that may bring tears, so I am not going to rush it. Before the name, you need the picture, because the picture is what breaks the courtroom apart. Picture a house on a winter night. Inside the house, a person sits, wrapped in a blanket, cold, praying for warmth. Outside, someone has been knocking on the door for 10 minutes, firewood stacked in their arms. The knocking is not soft. It is patient and steady, and loud enough to be heard in every room. But the person inside has the television turned up, and the kettle screaming, and headphones in one ear, and so the knocking folds into the general noise of the house, unrecognized, not unheard. Unrecognized. The ear received it. The mind filed it under nothing. The firewood was real. The knocking was real. The cold was real. And the door never opened. Now tell me, whose fault is that scene? The knocker did not fail. The listener did not rebel. Something in between them failed. The filter failed. You live behind a filter. Every human being does. Your senses take in millions of impressions every hour, and a narrow gate in your mind selects the tiny handful you actually get to notice. That gate does not select based on what is true or what is important. It selects based on what it has been trained to expect. And your gate, chosen one, was trained during years when survival mattered more than destiny. It was trained by disappointment, by criticism, by the particular pain of hoping loudly and being embarrassed for it. So the gate learned. It learned to filter out the very category of open doors. Not because you are broken, because it was doing its job with the training it was given. The knocking has been folding into the noise of your house for years. That is what happened to the promotion. That is what happened 1 week before the relationship was supposed to begin. That was the hallway and the closing door, and you standing there with your courtroom, blaming the defendant. And here is why these 3 days matter more than an ordinary week of good intentions. A filter like that cannot be argued with. It cannot be repented at. It sits underneath the level where willpower operates, which is exactly why every book you read and every resolution you made slid off it without leaving a mark. But it can be reached. There is a way in, and the way in is not effort. The old path's new part of it. Something newer completes it. Over the next 3 days, the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd, I am going to walk you down that way in, 1 layer per day. Before this message ends, I will also have to tell you about the strangest discovery I made while preparing it. Something a neurologist in New York found about why some people physically cannot perceive their own open doors. When I read his work for the first time, I sat back in my chair and did not speak for a long while, because it explained 20 years of my own hallway. But it is too early for that. You do not have the frame for it yet. Hold the corner of that thread, and do not let me forget to pull it. For now, I want to close this opening the way the old watchman closed the first hour of the night, by telling you plainly what you are watching for. You are not watching for fireworks on July 21st. You are watching for a door that has always been quieter than your house. The work of these 3 days is not to make God knock louder. He is not the variable. The work is to turn down the noise, retrain the gate, and stand where you can hear what has been standing outside all along. Before I pull that thread, come with me into one scene, because I want you to see yourself clearly, and some things are only seen in pictures. It is a Tuesday night this past spring. A kitchen, lit only by the small bulb above the stove. You are standing at the counter long after everyone else is asleep. One hand flat on the cold surface, the other holding a phone you are not reading. There is a bill on the counter you have already read 3 times. The refrigerator hums. Your lower back aches in that one specific place it always aches. And in that moment, standing in the half-dark, you feel it. The strange, doubled sensation that has followed you all your life. On the surface, exhaustion. Underneath, and this is the part you never say out loud, a stubborn, unreasonable certainty that your life is supposed to be bigger than this kitchen. Not vanity, not delusion. A memory of an assignment you cannot quite read anymore, like a letter carried so long in a pocket that the ink has worn into the cloth. You have had 100 nights like that, and every one of them ended the same way. You put the phone down, turned off the bulb, and told yourself, to be realistic, chosen one, I need you to understand what was actually happening in those kitchen nights, because it was not weakness. That doubled feeling, the exhaustion lying on top of the certainty, is the exact signature of a person standing near an open door they cannot perceive. The certainty is the light coming through the gap. The exhaustion is the cost of pressing against a door you cannot find the handle of. And there is one more pattern I need to hand you before we go deeper. A small one, but when you see it, you will feel a click in your chest. Think back to the week before each of your near misses, the week before the interview, the week before the conversation that would have changed everything. Was it calm? It was not. It was, almost every time, a week of strange chaos. Small things breaking, old conflicts flaring up out of nowhere. Your sleep wrecked, your patience thin, 3 minor emergencies in 4 days, none of them meaningful, all of them loud. You thought the chaos was bad timing. Look again. The chaos had a direction. Every single piece of it pulled your attention away from the door and toward the noise. I am not going to tell you yet what that pattern is or why it repeats with such precision, because you need one more piece of the machine before the answer can land with its full weight. But write this on your heart. The week you are in right now, this exact week of July, is that kind of week. And this time you know it while it is happening. That has never been true before. That alone already sets these 3 days apart from every window you have ever lost. One more honest word, because trust between us matters more than momentum. I do not know every detail of what stands on the other side of your door, and I will not pretend to. No honest messenger would. What I know is the pattern, the mechanism, and the protocol, because I have watched them play out in my own hallway and in thousands of letters from people who found these messages in their own marked seasons. The dates were placed in front of you. The response still belongs to you. That is the deal heaven has always offered, and it is the only deal I will offer you tonight. If the broken sleep has visited you, if your life has been shedding, if the buried dream has stood up inside your chest, then you did not find this message. You were walked to it. And the person who was walked to it deserves to know exactly what stole the last 4 doors from them. That is where we go next. Take one breath before we do, because after the next few minutes, you will not be able to see your history the same way again. If your chest tightened during any of that, pause for one moment and put a single word in the comments. Seeing, just that word. It marks the moment you stopped being on trial, and it tells the next weary soul who finds this message that someone else walked through it awake. Now hold on, because I made you a promise. I said the mechanism that stole your doors has a name. Here it is. We call it signal blindness. Say it slowly to yourself, because this is the diagnosis that was missing from every sermon and every self-help book you have ever consumed. Signal blindness is the condition of receiving a divine signal completely, physically, measurably, and registering none of it. Not deafness. The deaf man knows he is missing something. The signal blind man is certain there was nothing to hear. Let me show you how deep this goes, because you will be tempted to think I am speaking in metaphors. I am not. Researchers once ran a famous experiment where they asked people to watch a small group passing a ball and count the passes. Halfway through, a person in a gorilla costume walked directly through the middle of the scene, stopped, faced the camera, beat their chest, and walked off. Half the watchers never saw it. Not missed it, never saw it. When shown the footage again, some of them accused the researchers of switching the tape. Their eyes received the gorilla. Every photon. The image traveled the full path into the brain and was then quietly deleted before it reached awareness, because the mind had been given one instruction: count the passes. Whatever does not serve the counting does not exist. Chosen one, now transfer that scene onto your own history and brace yourself. Your mind has been given an instruction too. It was given the instruction years ago, and the instruction was survive. Watch the bills. Watch the moods of difficult people. Watch for rejection so it never blindsides you again. Count the passes, count the passes, count the passes. And through the middle of that counting, doors have walked. Slowly, deliberately. Some of them stopped directly in front of you and waited. The offer that was one honest conversation away. The person whose eyes lingered a moment longer than politeness. The Tuesday afternoon idea that arrived complete from nowhere and was gone by Thursday under a pile of obligations. Every photon received, everyone deleted before it reached you. That is signal blindness. It is not a character flaw. It is not thin faith. It is a filter, doing exactly what it was trained to do. In the mind of a person who was never told, the filter existed. And I want to say this next sentence very carefully, because I know who is listening. Some of you have carried shame for a decade over doors you never actually refused. You cannot refuse what you were never allowed to perceive. Let that sentence take some weight off your shoulders tonight. But now we have to go one level deeper, because a filter is only a symptom, and I promised you the root. The real question is why your filter was trainable in that direction at all. Why did survive so completely overwrite? Notice the door. Other people worry about money and still spot their opportunities. Why did your gate slam so much harder than theirs? The answer lives in a discovery about the structure of the mind itself. And when I first understood it, I finally forgave myself for 20 years of hallways. Here is the discovery. You do not have one mind. You have two, and they were never meant to work apart. One of them is the analyst. It speaks in words, counts in numbers, plans in steps. It runs your logic, your caution, your schedules, your arguments. It is a brilliant servant and a terrified ruler. The other is the knower. It does not speak in words at all. It speaks in pattern, in image, in timing, in that sudden bodily certainty that arrives faster than thought. The knower is the part of you that senses a room the moment you enter it. It is the part that recognizes a door, because doors are never recognized by logic. They are recognized by pattern, weight, and timing, the native language of the knower. Watch any small child, and you will see the two minds still braided together. A child draws a picture while narrating a story, sings while calculating, invents a machine out of couch cushions with full engineering confidence and full imaginative fire at the same moment. Educators used to quietly call that early blaze genius before the world taught them not to. That braid is why children walk through open doors without hesitation. See it, know it, step. No committee. Then something happened to you. It happened to nearly all of us, but it happened to some of us with violence. The world began to reward only the analyst. Sit still. Show your work. Be realistic. Stop dreaming. Every mark, every scolding, every mocking laugh, when you shared something tender, drove a wedge between the two minds. The braid loosened. The bridge between them, and there is a real, physical bridge between them, went quiet from disuse, like a border crossing in a Cold War. And here is what life looks like after the wedge. The knower still fires every single time a door approaches. It has never once stopped. It fires as a pull in the chest, a thickening of a moment, an unreasonable urge to speak to a stranger, to drive a different route, to open the old notebook. But the signal must cross the bridge to become action, and standing at the bridge is the analyst, alone, frightened, holding its one instruction: survive. Count the passes. So, the analyst vetoes. Not maliciously, protectively. It stamps the knowing with the same 3 words every time. Not enough evidence. And the door walks on through the scene like the gorilla, fully received, fully deleted. We call this internal border war the split, and the split is the root under the root. Signal blindness is what the split does to your perception. The vetoed life is what it does to your history. Stay with me now, because this next part is where your past begins to rearrange itself. Think of the moment in the old scriptures when the prophet Elisha stood in a city surrounded at night by an enemy army. His young servant rose at dawn, saw the horses and chariots circling the walls, and fell apart. "Master, what will we do?" Elisha did not argue with him. He did not hand him 5 reasons for courage. He prayed one of the strangest prayers in the entire text. "Lord, open his eyes, that he may see." And the text says the young man looked again at the exact same hills, and they were full of horses and chariots of fire, an army beyond the army, and it had been there the entire time. Nothing arrived in that moment. Nothing changed on the hills. The only thing that changed was the filter. The servant had been signal blind in the most literal sense the old language could express, and the cure was not more effort. The cure was an opening. I need you to notice something in that story that took me years to see. The servant was not a bad man. He was not faithless by choice. He was a devoted assistant to the most spiritually alive person in the nation, standing 3 feet from him, and he still could not see the fire on the hills until something in his perception was opened from beyond his own willpower. If proximity to holiness were enough, he would have seen. It was not enough. The gate is not moved by nearness or sincerity. The gate is moved by being opened. That is why I have so little patience left for the voices that told you to simply believe harder. You have believed until your knuckles were white. Belief was never your deficiency. You have been trying to argue with a filter, and filters do not attend debates. Somewhere under all the noise, I think you have always suspected this. There is a moment, deep in prayer or late in the night, when you have felt something vast, lean close, felt the words almost forming, and then felt the connection drop like a call in a tunnel. That drop is the split. You are not far from the signal, chosen one. You are standing directly inside it, mistuned. There is a whole line of hard science underneath what I just described, including work that earned one of the highest honors science can give, about what happens when the two halves of the mind are studied separately, and what becomes possible when they are deliberately brought back into step. I am going to bring you to it before this message is over, and I will introduce you to a doctor in New York whose findings on this changed how I structure my own mornings. But not yet. Science lands differently once you have walked the first day of the protocol, so it waits. What cannot wait is the question you should be asking right now. If the split is the root, and the split lives below willpower, then what exactly are we doing for 3 days? Fair question. Here is the shape of the answer, and then we will walk into the first day properly. July 21st is the day of the clearing. Before a bridge can carry signal, the noise shelling it has to stop. Day 1 is about locating and silencing the specific noise sources that keep your analyst in a permanent state of emergency. Not all noise. The exact 3 channels that matter. Most people have never once had a genuinely quiet gate, not for 1 hour of their adult lives. You will. July 22nd is the day of the synchronization. This is the center of the window, the day the two minds are deliberately brought back into step so that knowing can cross into awareness without being vetoed at the border. There is an old way to begin this and a newer way to complete it, and on that day, I will hand you both. This is also the day the doctor and his discovery enter our story, because what he found is, frankly, the missing half of everything the old paths were reaching for. July 23rd is the day of the quiet yes. A synchronized mind with a cleared gate will perceive its door quickly, often faster than you expect, and perception demands response. Day 3 is about the smallest possible act of obedience toward what you see. Not a leap, a yes, the size of a mustard seed, placed with precision. I will show you how to find yours and how to place it. 3 days. Clearing, synchronization, response. Simple to say, precise to do, and each day builds on the one before it, which is why the order cannot be shuffled, and why skipping the window costs so much more than 3 ordinary days. And before your analyst raises its hand with its favorite objection, no, this does not require you to quit your job, alarm your family, or sit on a mountain. Every piece of this protocol fits inside a normal, obligated, exhausted human life. It was designed there. Before we meet it, there is one wound I refuse to walk past, because I can hear the question some of you are asking under your breath. If the split happens to nearly everyone, why did it cut me so much deeper? Why do other people seem to function, promote, marry, build, while I stand in kitchens at midnight holding a certainty I cannot cash? Chosen one, lean in, because the answer is the opposite of what your shame has been telling you. The depth of the cut matches the strength of the signal. A child with a faint Noah feels the wedge go in and barely notices. There was not much crossing that bridge to begin with. But a child born with a roaring Noah, a child who saw patterns the adults missed, who felt the grief in a room before anyone spoke, who knew things there was no way to know, that child terrified the ordinary world. That child got corrected harder, mocked sharper, warned more often. The brighter the fire, the more water the world threw at it. So the ones who were given the most receiving capacity took the deepest split. It is one of the cruelest arithmetic facts I know, and it is also the most hopeful, because it means the ache you have carried is not evidence of a small life. It is the pressure of an unspent gift. The size of your frustration is the size of what never got to cross the bridge. Nobody aches like you have ached over a life that was supposed to be ordinary. Feel what happens in your body as I say this, because your body has always known. The tightness that just moved through your throat, the heat rising somewhere behind your eyes, that specific heaviness in the center of your chest, old and familiar, like a stone you have carried so long you stopped calling it heavy. And underneath all of it, if you hold still, something else, something lifting, the Noah, hearing itself described out loud for the first time, pressing upward against the veto, like a plant against a sidewalk. That pressure you feel right now is not distress, it is recognition. The Noah has been waiting decades for the analyst to hear this explanation, because the analyst never rejects what it finally understands. What you are feeling in this exact moment is the first loosening of the border, and you have done nothing yet except listen. Now imagine what 3 deliberate days can do. I also owe a word to the skeptic in you, and I say this with respect, because your skepticism was earned honestly. It was built from every prophecy that fizzled, every seminar that overpromised, every prayer line that took your hope and handed back a slogan. Good. Keep the skepticism. It is the analyst doing its noble job. I am not asking you to believe me tonight. I am asking you to run the experiment. 3 days has a beginning and an end. The protocol costs you no money and asks no confession of belief. If the gate stays shut, you have lost nothing but a long weekend. If it opens, even a crack, you will know within days which world you have actually been living in. And notice the trade you have been accepting instead. A loud life with a sealed gate, noise all day, numbness all night, and a Noah pacing behind the border like a lion in a zoo. Against that, a quiet gate for 3 marked days. That is the whole wager. When you frame it honestly, refusing the experiment is the irrational choice, and somewhere in you, the analyst just nodded. One thing does stand in your way though, and I would be lying to you if I moved past it. Everything I just laid out assumes you make it to the morning of July 21st with your attention intact. There is a force with a long, documented record of making sure people like you do not. It has already brushed against you at least once since you started listening to me tonight. Maybe you felt it. A flicker of the urge to check something, an itch of restlessness with no source. Chosen one, before we walk day 1 together, you need to meet the thing that ate your last 4 windows while you were busy calling it life. Every vault has an alarm. Remember that sentence, because in the next few minutes, it is going to turn one of the most discouraging patterns in your life, inside out. We are about to name the force that has eaten every marked window you have ever been given, and I want to name it correctly, because a thing correctly named loses most of its power on the spot. Think back with me one more time to those weeks before your near misses. The flat tire the morning of the interview. The relative who chose that exact week to detonate an old grievance. The sudden crushing sleepiness that fell on you Every time you sat down to work on the thing that mattered. The urgent little fires, none of which turned out to matter a month later, all of which mattered enormously for exactly the 3 days they needed to matter. Your analyst filed all of it under one word: life. Life got busy. Life got crazy. It is what we say. But you are further down the road now than you were 20 minutes ago, so look again with cleared eyes. Randomness scatters. This does not scatter. This clusters. It clusters with uncanny precision around thresholds, and it always arrives dressed as something reasonable. There is an old name for this pattern in the texts, and there is a modern shape of it in your pocket, and tonight we are going to call it what it is: the counterfeit pull. The counterfeit pull is a surge of manufactured urgency, timed to a marked window, whose single purpose is to relocate your attention, not to hurt you. Hurting you would wake you up. The pull never wants you awake. It wants you occupied. It does not need to close the door, because it cannot close the door. No force in this world or under it has the authority to close what God has opened. So it does, the only thing left. It makes sure you are looking elsewhere while the door stands open, and it lets the deadline do the rest. I told you the pull has an old record, so let me open the file. 25 centuries ago, a man named Nehemiah stood on a half-built wall around a ruined city. He had one assignment and a window of favor to finish it in. And the moment the work approached completion, the moment the gaps in the wall grew almost too narrow for an enemy to enter, 2 men named Sanballat and Geshem sent him a friendly message. Come down. Meet with us in the villages on the plain of Ono. Just a meeting. Just a conversation between reasonable men. The text says they sent that same invitation 4 times. 4 times, chosen one. The same week, the wall neared completion. Not an army. An appointment. And Nehemiah sent back one of the greatest sentences ever recorded. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? Notice what Nehemiah understood that most of us never do. He did not argue with the invitation. He did not investigate whether Sanballat had a point. He read the timing. The invitation was not information. The timing was the information. A reasonable request arriving 4 times at the exact hour of completion is not a request. It is an extraction attempt, wearing the clothes of one. Now bring that into your July. Between this moment and the evening of July 23rd, the pull is going to send you invitations to the plain of Ono. I can tell you the disguises in advance, because it only owns 5 costumes, and it has been wearing the same 5 for as long as anyone has kept records. The first costume is the manufactured emergency. Something small will break, leak, crash, or bounce, and it will present itself as needing resolution this instant. Watch it closely and you will see the seams. Real emergencies are rare and loud. Manufactured ones are frequent and itchy. They demand attention out of all proportion to their actual stakes. The second costume is the sudden fatigue, not honest tiredness after labor. A specific, weighted sleepiness that descends the moment you turn toward the work of the window. You have felt it 100 times. You sit down to pray, to write, to plan, and within minutes your eyes are sand. Then you give up, open something trivial, and are mysteriously wide awake. That fatigue has a schedule, and its schedule is the tell. The third costume is the relational flare. An old conflict, dormant for months, chooses this exact week to erupt. A text message designed to hook you. A criticism from someone whose approval you never stopped wanting. The flare works because it hijacks the noblest part of you, the part that wants peace in the family, and spends it on a battle that could have waited a month without any cost. The fourth costume is the most dangerous, and I need you especially alert to this one. It is the counterfeit opportunity. Right inside your marked window, something genuinely good will show up. A plausible offer, an attractive invitation, a door-shaped object. Its only flaw is its timing, because saying yes to it consumes precisely the days assigned to something greater. The pool long ago learned that chosen ones do not fall for bad things, so it stopped offering bad things. It offers good things at fatal times. Wrong door, right hallway. And the fifth costume is the quietest. The numbness scroll. No crisis, no drama, just a soft grey pull toward the feed, the show, the fridge, the nothing. Hours dissolve. You are not enjoying yourself. You are not resting. You are simply absent, and absence is all the pull ever needed. Of the five, this one takes the most windows, because it never triggers a single alarm. 5 costumes: emergency, fatigue, flare, counterfeit door, numbness. I want you to write those 5 somewhere. You will see them for the next 3 days, because a costume identified in advance is a costume that fails. The gorilla only stays invisible while you are counting passes. The moment someone tells you a gorilla will walk through, you cannot miss it. Tonight, I am telling you. And now, let me hand you the reframe I promised, the one that turns this whole discouraging pattern into fuel. You have spent years reading the chaos around your thresholds as evidence that things always fall apart for you. Evidence of a jinx, a curse, a heaviness on your family line. Hear me. Every vault has an alarm. The alarm does not go off over empty vaults. Nobody guards a door that leads nowhere. The very intensity of the interference around your windows is the strongest confirmation you have ever been given that your windows are real and that what waits behind them is worth guarding. The pull spending 5 costumes on you is the enemy of your soul, submitting a signed affidavit about your significance. From tonight forward, when the flare erupts or the fatigue falls, I want your first thought to be, so the window is real, and it is close. Let their alarm become your announcement. Before we rest, seal what you just learned, because sealed things cannot be stolen. If you have recognized even one of those 5 costumes from this past week, stop and type this in the comments. I am not coming down. 5 words, borrowed from a man on a wall. Every time you see someone else type them below, you are watching another watchman refuse the plane of Ono in real time, and there is strength in a wall built shoulder to shoulder. Let me show you what refusing looks like in a modern life, because Nehemiah can feel far away. A man wrote to me last winter. He had spent 6 years quietly building toward opening a small counseling practice, the calling he had carried since his 20s. He finally set a date to sign the lease, a Friday. On the Monday of that same week, out of nowhere, his old employer called with an offer. More money than he had ever been paid, a title, security, the whole costume. Everyone around him said it was an answered prayer, but the timing scratched at him. He had just learned about the pull, the way you are learning tonight. And he noticed the one detail everyone else missed. The offer expired Thursday. 1 day before his Friday. A generous door that just happened to require the death of his real one. He asked for a week to decide. They refused. And that refusal told him everything, because real doors survive a week of thought. Counterfeits cannot afford one. He signed his lease on Friday with his hands shaking. The practice filled in 4 months. The company that could not wait 7 days laid off half its staff within the year. I am not promising you his arithmetic. I am handing you his question. Whenever something demands your yes inside a marked window, ask it calmly. Why does this door fear my stillness? Doors sent by heaven are patient, because heaven owns the calendar. Only counterfeits sprint. There is one more gift hiding in the old language before we breathe. The ancient word for watchman comes from a root that means to guard, to keep, to attend with care. And the first time that root appears in the whole text is not on a wall at all. It is in a garden. The first human was placed in Eden and told to work it and to keep it. Same word. To watch over what has been entrusted before you know its full worth. Chosen one. That is your oldest job description. Older than every title you have held and every one you were denied. These 3 days are not an interruption of your real life. They are the resumption of your original post. So let the identity settle on you now, one size deeper than it sat a few minutes ago. You are not a person hoping nothing goes wrong this week. You are the keeper of a gate that heaven has scheduled to open, and keepers do not beg outcomes. They hold ground. Feel the difference in your spine when you say it that way. Hoping hunches, keeping stands. Breathe with me here for a moment, because we have been climbing hard and steep, and even watchmen sit down. Loosen your shoulders, unclench your jaw. You are allowed to hold all of this lightly for 60 seconds. I will tell you something small and human while we rest. When I first learned to spot the 5 costumes, I became insufferable for about a week. Every phone call was an ambush. Every yawn, a demonic assignment. My wife finally looked at me over dinner and said, "Sometimes tired is just tired, love." And she was right. And we laughed. And I needed both the lesson and the laughter. So take the middle road with me. Not paranoia. Pattern recognition. You are not hunting demons behind every dish in the sink. You are simply a person who now reads timing the way sailors read sky, calmly and with a slight smile, because you know the season. While we are resting, one more honest confession, so you know exactly who is talking to you. I still lose skirmishes to the numbness scroll, even now, even knowing everything I have just taught you. The difference is that I lose 30 minutes where I used to lose evenings, and I lose evenings where I used to lose seasons. That is what progress actually looks like in a real human life. If you demand perfection from yourself over these 3 days, you will hand the pull its 6th costume and its favorite one, discouragement. Now stand back up. There is one more layer to the counterfeit pull that I have deliberately saved for last, because it only makes sense after the rest, and because it connects the pull directly back to the split we named earlier. Ask yourself why the pull works at all. Why does a flat tire have the power to eat a destiny? A tire takes 1 hour to fix. The window is 3 days long. The math should not work, and yet it does. Why? Because of the state it leaves you in. The pull does not steal your hours, chosen one. It steals your state. Every emergency, every flare, every itchy little urgency shoves your analyst into full alert, and you already know what an analyst on full alert does at the bridge. It vetoes everything. One manufactured crisis on Monday morning can hold your gate sealed until Wednesday night, long after the crisis itself is resolved, because the body keeps ringing after the bell is struck. The tire was never the point. The ringing was the point. That is why the ancient instruction before every threshold was some form of the same strange command. Be still, fear not, peace, be still. Not because stillness is polite or spiritual decoration, but because stillness is a tactical state. A still watchman sees the whole field. A rattled one sees only the last thing that rattled him. The pull knows it cannot beat a still chosen one, so its entire strategy, all 5 costumes of it, reduces to a single objective. Never let them be still inside the window. And this is exactly where the 3-day protocol earns its structure, because day 1 exists to take that weapon out of their hands entirely. The clearing is not about tidying your schedule. It is about dropping the noise floor of your nervous system so far that no costume can raise it back in time. There is also a second instrument involved in this war, one I have referred to only sideways until now, a tool that works on the bridge itself, while the clearing works on the noise. I am still not ready to name it. It was handed to me at the lowest point of my own hallway years, and I made a vow about how I would speak of it, in what order, and to whom. The order matters. You will understand why tomorrow. And because you are hearing this on the eve of the window, I am going to give you a small assignment for tonight itself. Call it Day 0. Before you sleep, take one piece of real paper, not a note in your phone, paper, and write 5 short lines on it. Emergency, fatigue, flare, wrong door, numbness. Under them, write one sentence. The alarm proves the vault. Fold it once and put it where tomorrow morning begins. Next to the coffee, on the bathroom mirror, on the dashboard. That paper is not decoration. It is a tripwire for your awareness. The pull depends entirely on arriving unannounced. And tomorrow morning, in your house, it cannot. Somewhere in the next 3 days you will glance at that folded paper in the middle of some perfectly reasonable urgency, and you will feel the strangest thing. The urgency will deflate in your hands like a costume with no one inside it. That moment will be worth more to you than an hour of my talking, because it will be yours. One thing more for tonight. When you set that paper down, say 6 words out loud in the empty room, not a prayer, if you are not ready to pray. A notice. I am here for the window. Rooms remember what is declared in them. So does the part of you that has been pacing behind the border all these years. Let both of them hear the sound of your voice taking the post. So here is where we stand. Watchman. You know the window. July 21st, 22nd, 23rd. You know the wound, the split. You know the thief, the pull, and all 5 of its costumes. And you know that its alarm is your confirmation. The diagnosis is complete. Everything from this point forward is treatment. When we come back from this breath, we walk into July 21st itself, hour by hour, and I hand you the first assignment. The wall is almost closed. Chosen one, do not come down to Ono. Tomorrow morning, July 21st, the window opens. Not at some mystical midnight hour. It opens when you open your eyes, because the window was never in the sky. It is in the gate, and the gate wakes when you do. So let us walk through the first day together now, slowly and specifically, so that when the sun comes up you are not guessing. Day 1. The clearing. Here is the principle underneath everything you will do tomorrow. A signal does not need to be made stronger if the noise around it is made weaker. You have spent years asking God to speak louder. Tomorrow you stop asking for volume and start subtracting static. It is the single most efficient exchange in the spiritual life, because the signal is already at full strength. It has been at full strength since before you were born. What varies, what has always varied, is the floor of noise it must clear to reach you. And your noise, chosen one, does not come from everywhere. It comes from 3 channels, only 3. Most people never isolate them, so they fight a fog. You are going to fight 3 named enemies, and named enemies lose. The first channel is input noise. This is the obvious one, and still the one that takes people down. From the moment your eyes open tomorrow, the world will offer you its needle. The feed, the news, the inbox, the voices of strangers arguing in your pocket. Every one of those inputs arrives preloaded with urgency that is not yours. And your analyst, faithful guard dog that it is, treats every incoming alarm as real until proven false. 30 minutes of morning scrolling buys your gate 4 hours of lockdown. That is the going exchange rate. And nobody told you. So here is assignment 1, and I want you to hear how small it is. Tomorrow, the first hour belongs to the gate. 1 hour. No phone, no screen, no news, no other voices, not even worship music with words, because words are input too. Silence, or instrumental sound at most. Coffee is allowed. Sunlight is encouraged. The world will still be fully broken and fully urgent at hour 2, I promise you. It has never once failed to wait for me. I will warn you now about what happens inside that first hour, because if I do not, you will think you are failing. Somewhere around minute 10, you will feel a discomfort that borders on panic, an itch in the hands, a conviction that something important is being missed. Your mind will produce sudden, brilliant reasons why today is the wrong day for this. Hear me clearly. That reaction is not a sign that silence is not working. That reaction is the sound of withdrawal, and withdrawal only happens to addicts. The discomfort is the diagnosis. Sit in it. It crests around minute 20, and then, for most people, breaks like a fever. What is on the other side of the break is a quiet you may not have felt since childhood. Do not schedule anything for that quiet. Just be in it. The gate learns fastest in exactly that state. People always ask me what they are supposed to do inside the silence hour, and the question itself shows how deep the sickness goes. We have forgotten how to be anywhere without a task. So, let me free you. You are not required to pray eloquently in that hour. You are not required to feel anything holy. Forcing spiritual production is just noise wearing a robe. The hour has one job: subtraction, and you cannot subtract by adding. If you want handles to hold, take these 3 questions in with you, not to answer them, just to sit with them the way you would sit with an old friend who does not need you to perform. What has been trying to get my attention lately? What am I tired of pretending not to know? And what would I do this year if I trusted what I know? Do not chase the answers. Let them surface or not surface. The pond does not chase the moon, and keep your posture ordinary. A chair is fine. A porch step is fine. You do not need a candle or a cushion or an app. The men and women who heard most clearly in the old accounts were shepherds, fishermen, and refugees. Their chapel was a hillside at dawn, and their liturgy was attention. Yours can be a kitchen chair before the house wakes up. Heaven has never once been offended by linoleum. The second channel is loop noise, and this one runs deeper. An open loop is any unfinished emotional transaction your mind is still servicing in the background. The conversation you never had with your father, the apology you never received, the version of last spring you keep relitigating in the shower. Each open loop is a background program, and background programs eat exactly the processing your knower needs to cross the bridge. You have felt this without naming it. On days when an old wound is freshly scratched, your intuition goes stone dead. That is not coincidence. That is arithmetic. The loops were spending your bandwidth. So assignment 2. Tomorrow, sometime in the middle of the day, you sit down with that same real paper and you write what I call the ledger of open loops. Every unfinished transaction you are still carrying. The names. The sentences never said. The debts you keep collecting on in your imagination. Do not write essays. Write lines. Most people find between 7 and 15. Seeing them in ink does something the mind alone cannot do. It converts a fog into a list, and lists have edges. Then you will do the harder thing, and I ask you to trust me through it. You will pick one loop. Not all of them. One, and not the heaviest one either. Pick a middleweight, and you will close it. Tomorrow. By whichever door it has. Some loops close with a sent message, some with a short call, and some, the ones involving the dead, the vanished, or the dangerous, close on paper only, with a letter that will never be mailed, but must still be written. You are not doing this for them. Understand that completely. You are decommissioning a background program that has been billing your gate for years. Forgiveness, whatever else it is in heaven, is on this side of things a bandwidth decision. I can feel some of you bracing, because one name just surfaced, and your whole body said no, not that one. Good. That reaction just told you where the treasure is buried. You do not have to dig it up tomorrow. That name may be day 30 work, not day 1 work. But the middleweight loop, the one that made you sigh rather than flinch, that one is ripe. And closing it will teach your nervous system that closing is survivable. We build the muscle on middleweights before we lift the name that made you brace. That is not cowardice, that is training. When you have closed your middleweight loop tomorrow, mark the moment. Come back to this message and type 2 words below. Released 1. You will think the words are for me. They are not. Somewhere on the other side of the world, another chosen one will be circling their own ledger at 2 in the morning, terrified of one name, and your 2 words in the comments will be the rope they pull themselves across with. This comment section for these 3 days is a wall, and every word on it is a stone. Now, before the objections form a line, let me walk down it and shake hands with the real ones, because some of you have lives that do not contain a spare silent hour, and you are already deciding this protocol belongs to people with quieter houses than yours. The nurse coming off a night shift, the mother whose small children detonate at 6 in the morning, the man working 2 jobs whose only silence is a parking lot. Hear me. The hour is the ideal, not the law. The gate answers to sincerity per square minute, not to duration. If your true maximum is 20 minutes locked in a parked car before the shift, then 20 minutes in that car, fully surrendered, outweighs a resentful hour in a monastery. God has raised prophets in busier houses than yours. He knows your floor plan. He drew it. And if tomorrow goes sideways entirely, if the child gets sick, and the pipe bursts, and the silence never comes, then hear this too, because it matters more than everything else I said today. The window is 3 days wide precisely because heaven builds slack into its schedules. A stumbled first day does not void the window. The pull would love you to believe that one imperfect morning disqualifies you, because despair is cheaper for it than distraction. It does not disqualify you. You are dealing with a father, not an auditor. Begin where you land, when you land there. The third channel is body noise, and here is where I lose the people who wanted this to stay mystical. Chosen one, your gate is housed in an animal, a tired, inflamed, over-sugared, under-breathed animal cannot host a quiet gate, and no amount of prayer changes that arithmetic, because the animal was also made by God and follows the rules he wrote into it. The old orders knew this. Every serious tradition of listening, in every century, paired the listening with fasting, walking, and breath. They did not know the chemistry. They knew the results. Tomorrow, you will not attempt a heroic fast. Day 1 asks 3 modest things of the animal. First, push the first coffee to after the silence hour, because caffeine on a raw nervous system is diesel on a guard dog. Second, keep the day free of the heavy sugars that you already know send you into fog by mid-afternoon. You know your own worst offenders. Skip them for 1 day. Third, 3 times tomorrow, morning, midday, evening, you will breathe like this. In through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out through the mouth for 8. 6 rounds each time, about 3 minutes. The long exhale is not decoration. It is the one lever in the whole body that manually stands the guard dog down, and it works whether or not you believe in it, which makes it the perfect tool for a skeptic in recovery. That is the whole of day 1. 1 quiet hour, 1 ledger, and 1 closed loop. 1 calmer animal. Look at it written small like that. There is nothing exotic in it. Nothing you could not have done any Tuesday of the last decade. And yet I will make you a careful promise, hedged exactly as much as honesty requires. If you do those 3 things tomorrow, then by tomorrow night, the floor of noise in your system will sit lower than it has in years, and things become perceivable above that lowered floor, which were fully present and fully invisible above the old one. What things, for you, in your life, I cannot say. That is between you and the one who marked the days. My job is the floor. Then comes the evening of day 1, and the evening has its own small liturgy, 10 minutes at most, and older than most nations. Before you sleep tomorrow night, sit once more with the paper. Walk back through the day in your mind, slowly, like a watchman walking the wall one last time before handing over the watch. Where did the pull show up today? Which costume did it wear? Did you catch it in the act, even once, even late? If you did, permit yourself the smile of a man who watched a pickpocket reach for his coat and find a folded note that says, "I see you." Then find the other thing, and this is the part people skip. Find the one moment of the day when the quiet held. A minute at the sink when the light came through the window strangely well. A breath in the car when the tightness let go. One moment. Name it out loud if you can. The old teachers called this practice the examination of the day. And its power is not sentimental. Whatever you name at night, chosen one, you train the gate to hunt for tomorrow. Gratitude is not a mood. It is target acquisition for the filter. This is why the instruction to give thanks appears in the texts, not as a suggestion for the cheerful, but as standing orders for soldiers. Last of all, as your eyes close on the first night, say quietly, toward the ceiling, toward the one who marked the dates, one plain sentence. The water is stiller than yesterday. Do it even if the day was a mess, and the sentence feels only 10% true. 10% true, said honestly, is a fair report from a wall under fire, and honest reports are how the watch is kept. Then sleep. Sleep itself does bridge work. You cannot do awake. And tomorrow, the center day, will need you rested. Before we close day one, I want to give you a picture to carry into it, because the analyst hoards instructions, but the knower keeps pictures. Somewhere in you right now, imagine a pond at dusk. All day, rain has hammered it, wind has dragged it, children have thrown stones into it. All day it has held a reflection of the sky, and all day the reflection has been shattered into unreadable pieces. The sky never left. The pond never sinned. The surface was simply too troubled to hold the image. Now the rain stops. The wind settles. The last stone sinks. And watch, without the pond doing anything at all, without effort, without worthiness, the surface smooths, and the sky assembles itself upon the water, whole. The moon was always there, chosen one. Tomorrow is not about summoning the moon. Tomorrow is about stilling the water. Hold that pond in your mind through the whole first day. When the pool throws its stones, and it will, you do not have to catch them. You only have to let them sink. Feel your own surface right now, actually. Drop your attention out of your head and into your body for 10 seconds. The weight of your hands where they rest. The temperature of the air on your face. The slow lift and fall of your own breathing, happening all this time without any help from you. You just touch the state that the entire first day is designed to make your home base. It was 3 feet away the whole time. It always is. Tomorrow night, when the water is stiller than it has been in years, you will be standing at the threshold of the most important day of the 3. July 22nd. The center of the window. The day we stop clearing the ground around the bridge and put our hands on the bridge itself. That is the day I finally keep the promise I have now made you twice. The doctor, the discovery, the piece of this that came not from the ancient texts, but from a laboratory. And the reason I structure my own mornings around 8 specific minutes. Everything you have done so far prepares for that day. Sleep well tonight, watchman. Set the paper by the coffee. The window opens with your eyes. July 22nd. The center of the window. If the 3 days were an arch, this is the keystone, and everything before it was scaffolding. Day 1 lowered the noise around the bridge. Day 2 puts your hands on the bridge itself. And to do that honestly, I have to take you somewhere. These messages rarely go. Into a laboratory. But first, the morning. Day 2 begins the way day 1 began, with the silent hour. And you will notice something immediately. The hour is different the second time. The withdrawal is shorter. The panic is quieter. Somewhere in you, the animal has learned that the world survives its absence, and it releases you sooner. Use the extra depth. This is the morning to bring the 3 questions back and hold them a little closer. What has been trying to get my attention? What am I tired of pretending not to know? What would I do this year if I trusted what I know? On day 2, do not be surprised if one of them answers back. Then, sometime in that second morning, I want you to try the oldest synchronization practice I know. Take one small passage from the old texts. A psalm is ideal. Just 2 or 3 lines. Read the words slowly, twice. That is the analyst receiving it. Then close your eyes and build the scene. The green pastures, the still waters, the table set in the presence of enemies. Smell the grass, Feel the wood grain of the table. That is the knower receiving it. Word, then image. Left hand, then right hand. Most believers live entire lives, feeding only one side. Words for the studious, feelings for the fervent, and both go hungry. Feed both within the same 5 minutes, and something happens in the middle that neither can produce alone. The old teachers called it meditation before that word was taken and sold back to us. It is simply the two minds being invited to the same table. Add one more practice in the afternoon, and do not laugh at its simplicity. Walk. Outside if you possibly can, no headphones. At an unhurried pace, for 20 minutes. Left foot, right foot. There is a reason every tradition on earth is full of walking. Why the desert fathers paced their cells. Why the greatest minds in history solved their problems on footpaths. Why the resurrected Lord chose to open the eyes of two blind-hearted disciples on a 7-mile walk to a village called Emmaus, rather than in a seminar room. The alternating rhythm of walking is a lullaby to the guard dog and a metronome for the two minds. People have walked into more revelations than they have ever studied into. And now, chosen one, the afternoon of day 2, is where my story and yours converge. Because it was on the afternoon of my own second day, years ago, pacing exactly the kind of walk I just assigned you, that I finally admitted the thing I have to admit to you now. The old practices, the silence, the word and image, the walking, all of it, had brought me to the edge of something and could not push me over it. I could feel the bridge. I could stand on this side of it and hear the knower pacing on the far bank. But the crossing itself stayed narrow, and some mornings it stayed shut, and I could not understand why sincerity and discipline were not enough. The answer, when it came, did not come from a pulpit. It came from a stack of research papers a friend put in my hands, and at the center of that stack was a name I did not expect. A scientist who, decades ago, did something no one had ever done. He studied human beings in whom the physical bridge between the two halves of the brain, and yes, there is a literal physical bridge, a thick cable of 200 million connections running down the center of your skull, had been surgically severed to treat catastrophic seizures. What he found rearranged everything the textbooks thought they knew about the mind, and it earned him the Nobel Prize. Because when the bridge was cut, the person did not become half a person. They became, in measurable ways, two streams of awareness in one skull. Show a word to one side and the person could say it, but not draw it. Show it to the other side, and the hand could draw it perfectly, while the mouth swore it had seen nothing. Nothing at all. The speaking half was honestly blind to what the knowing half held in plain sight. Sit with that sentence, because you have already lived it. The speaking half honestly blind to what the knowing half holds. That is not a metaphor for your condition, chosen one. That is the documented, prize-honored, laboratory version of the exact hallway you have been standing in. In those patients, the cable was cut with a scalpel. In you, in most of us, nothing so dramatic happened. The cable is intact. It is simply quiet. Decades of one-sided schooling, one-sided work, one-sided survival, trained the traffic down to a trickle. The road did not collapse. It emptied. And the moment I read that, standing in my kitchen with the pages shaking slightly in my hand, two things happened at once. First, 20 years of hallways forgave themselves in a single breath, because you cannot blame a man for not hearing news that never crossed the bridge. And second, a question stood up in me with enormous force. If the bridge emptied through disuse, through one-sided traffic, then what would refill it? Not sentiment. Traffic. What kind of traffic reopens a neural road? That question has a modern answer, and it comes with a name, a face, and a clinic in New York City. A neurologist there, a man named Dr. Daniel Barone, spent years on the far side of that exact question, working with patients whose minds, in his words, were fighting themselves. And what his work centers on is a discovery so simple it feels almost like a joke at first. Of all the signals the brain receives, only one arrives in both hemispheres simultaneously, naturally and involuntarily, and has done so since you were in the womb. Not images, which root heavily to one side. Not language, which roots heavily to the other. Sound, patterned, structured sound enters both halves of the mind at once, whether you believe in it or not, whether you are paying attention or not, which means sound, the right kind of sound, engineered the right way, can do the one thing willpower has never once done in the history of struggle. It can knock on both doors of the house at the same time, in the same rhythm, until the two occupants come out into the hallway and find each other. The old world knew a shadow of this. It is why every serious tradition sang, why the walls of Jericho fell to horns and not to hammers, why a shepherd boy with a harp could pull a tormented king back from the edge when all the counsel of wise men could not. They had the principle. They simply did not have the precision. In just a few minutes I am going to tell you exactly what Dr. Barone built with that precision, how it works, what it asks of you, which is very little, and how it came into my own life, because I made a vow about telling that story in its right order. And its right order is inside the window, when your gate is clear enough to weigh it calmly. What I will say first is only this. When I finally understood what he had found, I did not feel like a man discovering something new. I felt like a man watching two old friends, the ancient practices and the modern laboratory, walk toward each other across a field and shake hands. Nothing I am about to show you replaces the silence, the psalms, or the walking. It completes them, the way the keystone completes the arch that the scaffolding always pointed toward. There is a moment in the old texts I could not stop thinking about that whole first year. It is the boy Samuel again, the child in the temple who heard his name in the dark and ran 3 times to the wrong voice. Do you remember how the text sets that scene? It says, "And the word of the Lord was rare in those days." There was no open vision. Rare. Not absent. Rare. The signal had not stopped. The receivers had gone quiet. A whole generation of them. Until one old man finally taught one small boy the 6 words that reopened the channel. "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." Chosen one, I have wondered many nights how many other children lay awake in other rooms of that same temple, hearing something they had no name for, and were told to go back to sleep. That is what a generation of sealed gates looks like. And I wonder now, with an ache I will not hide from you, how many of you listening tonight were those children? How many of you knew things at 7 years old, sang things, drew things, sensed things, and were corrected out of your own equipment by adults who had been corrected out of theirs? The scientists have their own quiet record of this, and it is one of the saddest graphs ever drawn, tested for the kind of flexible, connective, both-sided brilliance we are describing. Children in early years score at levels the researchers frankly labeled genius. Nearly all of them. The same children tested a decade later have collapsed to a fraction of it, and by adulthood, the number is close to rubble. Nothing biological explains a fall like that. Nothing in the genome schedules it. It is the wedge, applied year after year, by systems that needed rows of quiet analysts more than they needed awake human beings. You were not born average, chosen one. Average was installed. So on the 22nd, understand what you are actually doing. You are not adding a skill to a deficient person. You are running the wedge in reverse. The silence lowers the noise. The word and image feed both sides of the table. The walk rocks the two minds toward the same rhythm. And then the keystone, which I am about to place in your hands. By the night of the 22nd, some of you will feel something you have not felt since you were small. A kind of internal agreement, both hands belonging to the same person. And when that agreement holds, the gate does not have to be forced. It simply stops being held shut. One evening practice for the night before the 22nd. As you lie down, put one hand flat on your chest and say, silently or aloud, the 6 words of the boy in the temple. "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." Do not perform them. Report for duty with them. You are not begging the signal to exist. You are informing the night watch that the receiver is coming back online after a long outage, and that whatever has been waiting patiently in the queue all these years can begin, gently, to come through. Report for duty, and let the center day do the rest. And so you know what to watch for. Let me give you the 3 small signs that the bridge is actually reopening as day 2 unfolds, because the early evidence is subtle and people miss their own progress. The first sign is the shiver. Somewhere in the psalm practice or the walk, a line or a sight will suddenly land in your body. Goose flesh, heat behind the eyes, a catch in the throat, out of all proportion to its surface meaning. That is, knowing arriving with its full cargo instead of the custom-seized version. The second sign is time going strange in the silence. You will look up from what felt like 10 minutes and find that 40 have passed. Both minds engaged together consume time differently. Children live there permanently. You are visiting home. The third sign is the return of the early memories. Do not be alarmed by this one. On the far side of the practices, many people find scenes from childhood surfacing unbidden and not traumatic ones. The smell of a grandmother somewhere in a kitchen, the exact light of a certain summer, a song you had lost. The bridge, remember, was widest when you were small, and as traffic resumes, the first shipments through are often the oldest inventory. When a memory like that arrives on day 2, greet it. It is not distraction. It is proof of reconnection, the lights of the far bank coming on one window at a time. Now a direct word to the veterans, because I can hear you, and your objection deserves the dignity of being answered head-on. Some of you have meditated for 20 years, prayed for 40, journaled, fasted, sat retreats, worn out more devotionals than I have read. And you are asking, with an edge I honor, why the bridge never simply reopened for you. If practice is what refills it, here is the answer, and I say it gently. Look back at the shape of your practice. For most veterans, it was magnificent and one-sided. The scholars among you meditated in words, analysis wearing a prayer shawl. The feelers among you soaked in emotion and called every wave a word from God, and the analyst, unconvinced, quietly vetoed it all by morning. One lane of traffic, however heavy, does not reopen a two-way road. That is the heartbreak of the veteran. Decades of sincerity poured down a single side of the skull. But here the other half, because it is enormous. Nothing you poured was wasted. Every hour of that practice built capacity on its own bank of the river. You are not behind, veteran. You are a city with one magnificent developed shore, waiting on a single span of bridge to make it whole. When the span goes in, and for you it can go in fast, everything you built for decades comes online at once. I have watched it happen, and it looks less like growth than like flooding. Which brings me, finally, to the edge of the story I vowed to tell in order. You have the mechanism now. Both doors, one sound, the empty road refilled. Your gate is clearer tonight than it has been in years, which means you can weigh what comes next the way it deserves to be weighed, calmly, with both minds present. So let me tell you what happened to me in the November. I do not talk about the year the hallway nearly won, where I was sitting when a person I trusted put a pair of headphones in my hands. What I heard, and did not hear, in the first 8 minutes. And why I have structured every morning since, around what Dr. Barone discovered. The scaffolding is done, chosen one. Here is the keystone. Before the story, let me fold everything we have learned into one sentence you can carry in a pocket, because we have traveled far tonight, and the analyst deserves a clean summary. You were never refused. Your windows opened, and your divided mind could not see them. And for 3 marked days, July 21st through 23rd, you are going to quiet the noise, rejoin the two halves, and answer what you finally see. That is the whole teaching. Everything else has been detail. If that sentence has become yours now, not mine, type the word claimed below and let it stand as your flag in the ground at the halfway mark of this message. Now, the November. 6 years ago, I was not the man speaking to you tonight. I was a man whose folded paper had been rained on for 2 decades. The work I believed I was called to had collapsed for the 3rd time. The savings were gone, and, worse than the savings, the certainty was gone. I had clearance sale prices on every dream I owned. I knew all the verses. I could teach the verses. And at 2 in the morning I would stand in my kitchen, hand flat on the counter, and feel nothing cross the bridge at all. Static without, and static within. A friend came to see me that month. Not a mystic. An engineer, the most skeptical man I know. A man who returns extension cords to the hardware store if the packaging overpromises. He sat in my kitchen, listened to the whole ruin of it, and then did something strange. He took out his phone and a pair of headphones and said, "I am not going to explain this because you will argue with the explanation. 8 minutes, humor me." I remember being irritated. I remember thinking that I had prayed for rescue and heaven had sent me a man with headphones. And I remember, because irritation is honest, that the first 3 minutes felt like nothing. Layered sound, moving from ear to ear, oddly structured, neither music nor noise. I sat there composing my polite refusal for whatever he was about to sell me. And then, somewhere in the back half of those 8 minutes, the composing stopped. I do not have language for the next part that does not sound overdressed, so I will use the plainest words available. The room got quiet in a direction I did not know. Rooms had. The commentary, the courtroom, the permanent low argument I had mistaken for thinking my whole adult life, sat down. And underneath it, still there, like a pilot light that had never once gone out under all that machinery, was the certainty. Not a voice, not lights, just the unmistakable sensation of both of my hands, finally belonging to the same person, and a thought arriving whole, unvetoed, the first, through customs in years. It said, "You are not finished. You were never finished." I did not buy anything that night. I want that on the record, because this is not a story about a magic purchase. I badgered my engineer friend for the explanation instead, and the explanation is what kept me, because it was not mystical at all. What he had put in my ears was built by the New York neurologist I told you about, Dr. Daniel Barone, working downstream of that Nobel-honored split-brain research we walked through. His design goes at the exact problem we have spent this whole message naming. 2 hemispheres, 1 silent road between them, and a way back in through the only door both sides share. Sound. I drove my friend to the airport 2 days later, and I remember the week that followed better than I remember whole years of the hallway period, because that was the week the small perceptions started coming back. Understand, nothing outward had changed. The account was still empty. The work was still rubble. But on Wednesday, I noticed the notebook. It had sat on the same shelf for 3 years, a project I had buried with full honors. And walking past it that morning, it was suddenly loud, the way the folded dream is loud, and I stood in front of the shelf with my coffee and heard myself say, out loud, alone, "Oh, there you are." And on Friday there was the phone call. A name had been drifting through my mind for 2 days. An old colleague, no reason attached. The old me would have filed it under random and returned to counting passes. But the road was carrying traffic again, and by then I had learned enough to test it, so I called. He answered on the second ring and went quiet when I said my name. He had been trying to find my number that same week. What came out of that call, I will not turn into a fairy tale, because it took 2 more years of ordinary work to build. But it was the door, chosen one. It was the door out of the November, and it arrived as a whisper I would have deleted, wholesale, every previous year of my adult life. That is what a repaired receiver actually changes, not the signal, the survival rate of the signal. They call it The genius switch. 8 minutes of precisely engineered audio, built on what Dr. Barone calls neural sync technology. You put on headphones, you press play, and the layered patterns move through both hemispheres at once, inviting them back into step, the way two clocks on the same shelf gradually fall into the same tick. The developers describe the goal as whole brain activation, the analyst and the knower brought online together, which you will recognize as the exact state we have been building toward for 3 days, the state where the veto softens and the gate stops being held shut. 8 minutes a day. That is the entire ask. No technique to master, no posture, no belief requirement, which is precisely why it worked on a man as spiritually bankrupt as I was that November, and on the engineer who brought it to me, who to this day describes himself as a man of graphs. Let me be careful and honest with you here, both minds open, because you have earned straight talk. This is not magic, and anyone who sells it as magic is doing it a disservice. What the track does, as best I understand the research, and my own 6 years with it, is state work. It reliably, repeatably lowers the internal noise and raises the cross-traffic between the hemispheres. It sets the table. What comes to the table, chosen one? What crosses the bridge once the bridge is open? That is not the audio. That was always waiting on the far bank. The tool does not create the signal. It repairs the receiver. Keep that distinction, because it is the difference between buying an idol and picking up an instrument. Let me tell you what the 8 minutes are actually like from the inside, because unknowns feed the guard dog, and I wanted fed facts instead. You sit or lie anywhere quiet. Headphones matter, because the design depends on each ear receiving its own precise stream. That is the whole architecture of it. 2 doors knocked on at once. The sound itself is layered and slowly shifting, closer to weather than to song. Some people feel a gentle pressure between the eyes around minute 4. Some feel warmth in the chest. Many feel nothing at all the first several sessions, and only notice afterward, in the quiet of the next hour, that the courtroom is strangely empty. All 3 responses are normal. The feeling is not the work. The traffic is the work, and traffic resumes on its own schedule. Why 8 minutes and not 30? Because the design is not endurance, it is entrainment. And entrainment either takes hold in the early minutes or waits for tomorrow. Dr. Barone built the sequence to do its inviting inside the span. An exhausted, obligated, modern human can actually protect every single day. An instrument you use daily at 8 minutes will always defeat a cathedral you visit twice a year. And there is something fitting in the number, because the womb, remember, was the last place both of your hemispheres received the world in perfect simultaneity. The sound was muffled there too, structured, rhythmic, a heartbeat arriving in both ears at once, 8 minutes at a time between the turnings. I do not think the resemblance is engineering. I think it is memory. Within the 3 days, its place is precise, so mark this. On the morning of July 22nd, the sequence runs once, after the silent hour, before the psalm practice, because everything the psalm and the walk do lands deeper on a synchronized mind. On July 23rd, the day of the yes, it runs again first thing, because you want the receiver at full traffic on the day you listen for instructions. After the window closes, it becomes what it has been for me for 6 years. The first 8 minutes after the silence, daily, the hinge of the morning. The old practices and the track are not rivals. They are the scaffold and the keystone, and from the day the keystone sets, they hold each other up. You should also know, it is not what some of you are bracing for. It is not meditation with better marketing. Meditation asks you to hold and direct attention, which is exactly what a rattled analyst cannot do. Which is why so many of you concluded, meditation is not for me. This asks you to sit still with headphones for 8 minutes. Your mind can wander the whole time. The sound does its work anyway. It is not affirmations. You will not be chanting anything at your bathroom mirror hoping repetition becomes belief. And it is not the generic relaxation audio you have sampled at 2 in the morning, the rain sounds and soft chimes that soothed the animal for an hour and rebuilt nothing, because soothing and synchronizing are different verbs. One lowers the volume of the war, the other ends it. I have watched what this does beyond my own skull, because after the first year, I could not keep quiet about it. And the letters found me. A woman from California wrote that she cried through her first session and could not explain why, and that within weeks the fog she had medicated for years began lifting in the mornings, and that her prayer life, her words, went from leaving voicemails to having conversations. A man from Texas, a numbers man, an auditor by trade, wrote that he tracked his own focus in a spreadsheet for 90 days because he refused to trust a feeling, and then attached the spreadsheet. The line goes up and to the right, and in the margin he had typed, "I have no further objections." I share those two because they are the two poles of who is listening to me tonight, the feeler and the auditor, and the same 8 minutes reached both. Over 18,000 people have walked this road now. Everyday people, nurses and drivers and grandmothers, and, yes, more than a few skeptics, returning their extension cords. I am not going to stack testimonies to the ceiling, because you were not built to be herded, and heaven does not need a crowd to make its case to you. One question matters. Does the mechanism answer your condition? You know your condition now. You know its name. You have known its name for about an hour, and you will notice that everything in you that recognized signal blindness also recognizes what a bridge repair would mean. One more letter, because a certain kind of listener needs this particular one. A woman from Manhattan wrote me about her family line, and her phrase for it was, the family ceiling. 4 generations, she said, of brilliant women who all stalled at the same altitude, the same pattern of almost. The grandmother who almost recorded the album, the mother who almost finished the degree, and now her, circling the same floor of the same building. She had done the therapy and named the patterns, and still the ceiling held, because you cannot analyze your way through a floor made of inherited noise. She wrote that the first month of daily sessions was the first time in her life the static went quiet enough to hear which ambitions were actually hers, and not echoes of unlived lives handed down the line. And she said the strangest sentence, one I have thought about for years. She said, "It turns out the curse was a frequency, and frequencies can be met." Her word for what happened next was not breakthrough. It was custody. She said, "I have custody of my own mind now. I want to be measured here, because I promised you no fairy tales, and I keep my promises inside the window. Not every letter sings like hers. Some people notice little for a week, then wake up one Thursday to find the morning fog simply absent. A small number shrug and send it back, and you will hear in a few minutes why sending it back costs them nothing. The pattern I can report honestly after 6 years and thousands of letters is this. The tool is consistent. The timelines are personal. The receiver repairs at the speed of its own history, and a 40-year split does not always seal in 4 days. What I have never once read in any letter, not one, is the sentence, "I synchronized both minds, cleared the noise, and my life stayed exactly the same." And now you understand why the tool enters our story tonight, on the eve of the window, and not as a footnote after it. Think of the architecture of the 3 days. Day 1 clears the noise around the bridge. The old practices on day 2 invite the two minds toward each other. But the span itself, the physical refilling of an emptied road, is the slowest part by the old methods alone. The work of months for some, years for the veterans, and your window is 3 days wide. The 8 minutes is the span dropped into place. On the morning of July 22nd, after the silence, before the psalm, those 8 minutes are the keystone set into the arch. That is the exact slot it occupies in the protocol, not a replacement for one single thing heaven has given you. The completion of the scaffolding you are already standing on. Which raises the questions the analyst is now lining up, and I can hear them from here. What does it cost? What if it does nothing for me? Why have I never heard of this? Who exactly is this doctor? Fair, all of it, and the answers happen to be the strongest part of the story, which is not something I get to say often about things that come with a price tag. Stand up and stretch if you need to, because we are going to take those questions one at a time, in the light, with no music swelling behind me. And after that, the window itself is waiting. And day 3, the day of the quiet yes, which remains the most important thing I have to teach you tonight. First question. Why have you never heard of this? You are a person who reads, who searches, who has bought more than one promise in a box. How does something built on Nobel-honored science, used by more than 18,000 people, stay off your radar for years? I will give you 2 answers, one boring and one that is not. The boring answer is distribution. Dr. Barone releases the program only through his own official page. You will not find it on the big everything store, not on the streaming platforms, not bundled into some subscription app between sleep sounds and whale noises. He has kept it where he can control the science, the audio fidelity, and the guarantee, and that decision, wise for the work, made it quiet in the marketplace. The answer that is not boring is one you already know in your bones, because we said it at the very start of this message. The people who profit from your circling need you to keep circling. Entire industries are built, floor by floor, on the divided mind. The outrage machines need your analyst permanently alarmed. The endless content wells need your numbness scroll. The self-improvement complex, and I say this as a man with a shelf full of its books, needs you to keep buying maps for a road that a repaired receiver finds on its own. A synchronized human being is a terrible customer for all of them. I am not going to build a cathedral of conspiracy on that point. I promised you sobriety inside the window. I will only say, when something this simple stays this quiet, it is rarely because it failed. Failures get louder. They get funding rounds and celebrity endorsements. Quiet is what effectiveness without a marketing empire sounds like. Second question. Who exactly is this doctor? Daniel Barone is a practicing neurologist in New York City, a man whose day job for decades has been minds that are fighting themselves. He is not a guru. You will find no robes, no compound, no claims of secret revelation. What he brought to this problem was the unglamorous discipline of a clinician standing downstream of Roger Sperry, the scientist whose split brain work took the Nobel Prize in 1981 and permanently changed what we know about the two-chambered mind. Sperry proved the 2 occupants exist. Barone spent his career on the practical question. The prize left open. How do you get them back into one household when the road between them has gone quiet? 2 names, chosen one. 1 prize-winning map of the problem, 1 working key for the door. That is the entire lineage, and every link of it is checkable by your analyst on its own time. A colleague of his tells a story I think about often. A researcher, another lab man, all data and no candles, who had reviewed the protocol design as a professional courtesy and decided, almost as a dare to himself, to run the 8 minutes daily for a month and journal the results like any other trial. His notes from week 1 are dry as toast. Mild relaxation, he wrote. Placebo, plausible. The notes from week 4 are different, and he published them to his own small circle with visible reluctance. Ideas arriving assembled, he wrote. 20-year-old problem approached from an angle I have no memory of constructing. And then the line that has stayed with me, because coming from a man like that it is practically a psalm. I appear to have been operating at a fraction of spec. At a fraction of spec. That is the laboratory dialect for everything this message has been saying in the older language. The equipment was always yours, chosen one. The spec was always genius. What you have been calling your limits were the operating conditions of a divided house, and operating conditions can change. Third question, and I will not pretend it is not the one some of you have been holding since the word headphones. What does it cost? Here is the full arithmetic. In the open, with the lights on. When Dr. Barone first shared the finished program with his colleagues, their honest reaction was that something with this much clinical thought behind it should carry a price in the range of $500, and as a course of neurofeedback sessions, which is the nearest clinical cousin, it easily would. It was never priced there. It is listed at $49. And through the page connected to this message, the link sitting in the description below and in the pinned comment, it is $39. 10 further dollars off on that page, and to my knowledge, only on that page. $39. I want to hold that number up next to the things it is standing against, because pricing is a language, and this price is saying something. It is 2 takeout dinners. It is 1 month of the streaming services quietly billing your card right now to keep the numbness scroll stocked. Against that, a tool you keep for life, because the purchase is a single payment with lifetime access, delivered to your email within minutes of ordering, no shipping, no subscription, no recurring anything. I have paid more than $39 for books about the bridge. This is the first thing I ever paid for that carried traffic across it. Weigh the other column too, the one nobody itemizes. You know what the split has already cost you. We spent an hour in that ledger. Price the promotion that walked past. Price the relationship that ended 1 week short. Price, if you can bear to, the years the notebook sat on the shelf with full honors and no funeral. None of those carried a checkout page, and every one of them billed you. The most expensive thing in your life, chosen one, has never been anything you bought. It has been the road you could not see, decade after decade, at a cost no one ever printed on a tag. Against that ledger, the question was never whether $39 is a lot. The question is, what one more missed window costs. And you already know that number better than I do. And they load the far side of the scale too. 4 bonuses come with it, at no added cost. A guided visualization recorded by one of the most highly rated creators on the Calm platform, walking you through the unfolding of your life across money, love, health, and happiness, which pairs beautifully with the vision work you will do on day 3. A smart grocery guide naming the 10 everyday American foods that feed brain fog, along with shortcuts that quietly save many families $100 or more a month. Body noise work you will recognize from day 1 of our protocol. A classic manifestation book, more than a century old, the root text most modern techniques are quietly rephrasing yours in full, and a beautifully designed infographic of the 5 habits that build an ideal future, made to be printed and put on the wall where the folded paper lives. But here is the part that made my engineer friend nod slowly, and he does not nod easily. The guarantee, 100%, ironclad, money back. And listen to the shape of it, because shapes tell you what a maker believes. There is no time trap in it and no usage trap. You can listen every single day, and if you conclude it did nothing for you, you write 1 email and every dollar comes back, which means the only person carrying risk in this entire exchange is Dr. Barone. Think about what a guarantee like that is, structurally. It is a confession of confidence. No one architects their own downside like that, unless the return rate has taught them they can afford to. You have bought promises before that hid behind fine print. Notice how different this posture is. The fine print here says, in effect, we will be judged by your actual mornings. So when I answer the 4th question, what if it does nothing for me? The honest answer is, then it costs you nothing but the trying, and you will have run the experiment your skepticism has demanded of every claim since the seminars burned you. The analyst is satisfied. The knower was satisfied an hour ago. That is both signatures on the page, and that is the only condition under which I was ever going to bring a product into a message about holy days. Now let me say the harder thing, because this next sentence is as much a part of the offer as the price. The genius switch is not for everyone. I mean that without theater. It is not for the person looking for a lottery ticket in audio form, who will play it twice, manifest nothing spendable by Friday, and call the whole field a scam. It is not for the person unwilling to give it the one honest month that a 40-year split deserves. And it is not a substitute for the window. Hear this clearly. If you buy the track and skip the 3 days, you have purchased a keystone and left it in the box beside an unbuilt arch. It is for the person who has recognized their own condition tonight, who intends to walk the clearing and the synchronization and the quiet, yes, regardless, and who wants the bridge work to move at the speed of the window instead of the speed of the wound. I hear one more objection under some breaths, and it is the most sacred one, so it gets the most careful answer. Is this allowed? Some of you were raised to flinch at anything that touches the mind from outside prayer, and your caution honors your reverence. So look at the record with me. When heaven wanted a tormented king soothed, it did not send a sermon. It sent a boy with a stringed instrument. And the text says, "The evil mood departed as he played." When the prophet Elisha needed the word of the Lord and could not find it in his own turmoil, he said, "Bring me a musician." And while the musician played, the hand of the Lord came upon him. Wood, string, structured sound, holy outcome. The instrument has been in the toolkit from the beginning, chosen one. Dr. Barone did not invent the door. He measured its hinges. If God was not offended by the harp, he is not offended by the headphone. What he asks is what he has always asked, that the instrument serve the listening and never replace the listener. And because integrity matters more to me than momentum, let me state the other side plainly, as a keeper of this gate and not a seller at it. The window does not require your wallet. July 21st, 22nd, and 23rd will open over your life if you never spend a cent. And the full protocol I have taught you tonight. The silence, the ledger, the breath, the psalm, the walk, the yes, stands complete on its own legs. Heaven has never once locked a door and hidden the key in a checkout page. The tool is the accelerant, not the covenant. I brought it to you because I could not, in good conscience, describe the bridge for 3 hours and then hide the fastest repair I know of. What you do with that is fully, freely, and finally yours. If your answer is yes, here is the practical part, said once and cleanly. The link is in the description below this message, and again in the pinned comment at the top. It goes to the official page, the one place the $39 arrangement and the 4 bonuses live together. Order tonight or tomorrow morning, and the audio is in your inbox long before the morning of July 22nd, which is its appointed slot in the arch. If your answer is no, or not yet, then walk the window with everything else I have given you, and walk it without 1 gram of guilt. Both kinds of walkers are mine, and both are his. 2 timing notes, both plain fact, and neither one a pressure tactic, because manufactured urgency is the 5th costume, and I refuse to wear it. First, the $39 figure is the current arrangement on that page, and the page itself warns that it will not hold indefinitely. I cannot promise you it is there next month, because that is not my page and not my call. I can only tell you it is there tonight. Second, and this one is just the calendar talking, the keystone has an appointed morning, July 22nd. Email delivery takes minutes, so even tomorrow evening is not too late. But a decision, postponed past the window, is not the same decision. It is a different one, made by a different person, standing outside a closed arch. You have been that person before. You do not have to be again. Let me also set your expectations for the tool with the same honesty I have kept all night, because right-sized expectations are half of every result. The first session is usually undramatic. My own first session, remember, was 3 minutes of composing a polite refusal. What most people report from week 1 is negative space, fewer spirals, an easier drop into sleep, the courtroom adjourning early. Week 2 is when the mornings change texture, the silent hour deepens on less effort, the psalm scenes arrive in higher resolution. Weeks 3 and 4 are where the letters start using words like custody and traffic, and over, the phrase, "I forgot I could feel like this." That is the honest curve. As I have watched it across 6 years of mail, yours will be yours. The window gives it a running start that most people never get. 3 days of cleared noise for the first sessions to land in, which is the entire logic of the timing. And whichever way you decide, mark the decision. If you claim the keystone tonight, type one word below. Keystone, not as a receipt, as a witness, the same way the wall builders set their names into the stones. And if you walk the window without it, type watchman instead, so the wall knows its full count. I read that column of words, chosen one, and so do a few thousand people standing at their own thresholds, tonight, deciding whether anyone else is really out here. Be evidence for somebody. Either way, we are not finished. Do not let anyone tell you the message peaks at the checkout. It does not. And frankly, nothing offends me more than a message that treats the sale as the summit. The summit is still ahead of us. Day 3 is waiting, July 23rd, the day of the quiet yes, and I have been saving the most important question of the entire window for it. The question is not whether your door will appear. After 3 days of this work, the odds are with you in ways they have never been. The question is whether you will recognize the size of the yes it asks for, because I promise you, it is smaller than you think, and that is exactly why almost everyone misses it. July 23rd, the day of the quiet yes. And here is the question I have been saving all night, the one the entire window narrows down to. When the door finally shows itself, will you recognize the size of the yes it asks for? Because chosen one, I must prepare you for the strangest fact in the whole economy of doors. The yes is always smaller than you think. Always. You have spent years picturing your threshold moment as something cinematic, the bold resignation letter, the cross-country move, the grand public leap, and that picture has quietly poisoned your discernment, because while you were scanning the horizon for a leap, the actual doors arrived looking like errands. Send the message. Make the call. Show someone the notebook. Say yes to the small invitation that smells faintly of the buried dream. Walk over and speak to that person. Sign up for the modest thing. The instructions that change lives, when you collect enough true stories to see the pattern, are almost embarrassingly small. And their smallness is not an accident. It is a design principle, and there is a reason for it that took me years to understand. The small instruction is a test of trust, not of strength. Anyone can gamble everything in a grand gesture. There is ego fuel in grand gestures. They photograph well, but only a person who actually trusts the voice will do a small, unglamorous, slightly inconvenient thing simply because the knowing said so. Heaven, it turns out, builds on that kind of stone. The old texts hand us the perfect case study, and I want you to have it in your pocket all day on the 23rd. A great general named Naaman, commander of armies, covered in a disease no physician could touch, travels with horses and chariots and chests of silver to the door of the prophet Elisha. And Elisha does not even come outside. He sends a messenger with one small instruction: go and wash in the Jordan 7 times. And the text says, Naaman went away furious. Furious. Listen to his reasoning. Because it is your reasoning. I thought he would surely come out to me, and stand, and call on the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hand over the place. I thought he had pre-written the scene, the way you have pre-written yours, and the true instruction offended the script. Are not the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? He says. Too small, too plain, too local. A door the size of an errand, and a man almost too big to fit through it. It was his servants, bless them forever, who saved his life with one sentence of perfect logic. Father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much rather then, when he says to you, wash and be clean. And Naaman went down and dipped 7 times and came up with the skin of a child. The healing was never in the river. Chosen one. The healing was on the far side of a yes small enough to humble him. Mark this on your heart for the 23rd. If the prompting that comes to you inside the window feels slightly beneath the size of your waiting, that is not evidence against it. That is the watermark of the genuine article. Let me make Naaman contemporary, because your Jordan will not look like a river. A woman I heard from last year had waited 15 years for a door back into music. Her prompting on her third day was to sing at her own church, once, in the second service, the one nobody attends. Her Damascus Rivers argument lasted 2 full hours. I used to sell out theaters. This is beneath the anointing. And then she remembered the general and went down to the water. In the empty second service sat a visiting producer nursing a burned-out soul who wept through her one song and introduced himself in the parking lot. You cannot pre-calculate that. Chosen one. You are not asked to. You are asked to dip. Another letter. A man whose buried dream was a carpentry shop, whose quiet, yes was, of all things, fix the neighbor fence you have been avoiding. He obeyed it grumbling, and the neighbor, watching him work, asked if he took commissions. The shop exists today, and its first commission was a fence. And one more, my favorite for its size. A grandmother whose prompting was a single sentence. Write down the stories. Just that. She began that evening at the kitchen table, longhand. The stories are a book now, self-published, 47 copies. You will not find it in stores. And it rewired an entire